idea that sort of taxing things, I mean, I could understand a regrettable tax. Look, we're absolutely stuffed. I mean, that would be, I'd rather hear that. We're absolutely stuffed, so we've got no choice but to lob some tax on it. But when politicians start arguing that tax has to be applied through some kind of moral crusade, then frankly, I have the absolute instinctive desire to want to start gnawing off my own elbows. I don't think this moral card is both laughable and dangerous, frankly, but that is the one that chancellors like to play. Let's get a word from David Buik, financial advisor and markets commentator at Aquis Exchange, of course. David, good afternoon to you. I don't want to ask you how many budgets you've sat through over the years. I know your eye is rarely off the ball. Just give us an assessment as to where this one sits, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Ian. But it goes back to about Ian McLeod in the late 50s, but we'll leave that.
Impressed.
Let's just deal with the facts that we have been given today. I mean, that leap was outrageous, absolutely terrible, and that gave Kemi Badenoch raw meat, and she devoured it after the Chancellor's speech. But the whole question of the budget actually goes back to July, or actually wasn't it, October of last year, when she played down the country. Yeah. Sentiment and confidence is so important in an economy, which Isabel Oakeshott alluded to, and she's 100% right on that. And ever since then, she's been treading water. Now, we had a 40 billion tax increase for the last budget, and this time it's 26 billion. And the most important thing from my perspective is the market quite liked it, because she seems to have found somewhere a £21.8 billion headroom during the course of the next 5 years, and she believes she's going to be able to repay debt to get down significantly by the end of this administration. I wish her well. I'm not sure that it can actually be achieved. But the one thing this budget didn't do was do anything, as far as I'm personally concerned, for growth or for investment, or for anybody who is going to propel business, industry and commerce and employ people, which of course you and Isabel were talking about before. Yeah. I mean, the question of pensions is brutal to what they've done, because if anybody thinks in 20 years' time, if you have that sort of attack on pensions, that the public sector is going to be able to afford to pay the kind of pensions that they get through the public sector at the moment, dream on. It's just not going to happen. And that, to me, is really set the tone of where I thought this budget was actually going. I mean, I understand what she's done as regards some of the investment policies, because this government really has been without planning, and I think that's been part of their thing. But the idea of nuclear power, I respect that and like that. The idea of apprenticeships, paying for them, giving them free. But the way that she's thrown money around like confetti by putting up basic wage and living wages is just going to be more national insurance contributions, going to make employers put their hands in their pockets or under their armpits, and they're never going to come out. And if they think that this is going to be the way forward to be able to, you know, advance ourselves and get ourselves from what I call this stagnant GDP, which we've had of around 1.5% during the course of the last 5 years, I've got news for her. It's just not going to happen. And that's what really has upset me more than anything else, is for the poorly paid who do need attention. I wish them well, and I'm glad they've got something out of it. But it's pathetic what they've done in cutting public expenditure. Absolutely pathetic. And that's, unless you cut public expenditure, you're never going to have growth.
Yeah, I mean, and that is, you know, just a cast iron, irredeemable fact, of course, which does sadly seem to elude some people, dare I say, on the Labour benches more than anywhere else. However, just give us a little bit more detail, if you could, David, on this fiscal headroom that she's given herself. You talked about there being a slither of positivity in that. Janet and John style, if you can, David, explain that.
Well, they just think that inflation will come down and it will be aided and abetted by people having more disposable income. That, again, is in doubt, and the rest of it. But, you know, the economists believe that it is actually going to happen. It is that because you've got the thresholds stuck at the same level, added on for another 3 years, means that the more money that we get, even if the economy only stays where it is, at 1%, 1.5%, she will get a lot more money coming in than had been expected, despite the fact that business confidence is low. Is sufficient business out there to actually be able to maintain what she thinks she has, which will be to be able to see what I call the fiscal headroom. Either she'll be borrowing less than she has been to date, which means that could give her £21.5 billion to invest in the public sector.
We will watch with interest. This time, 12 months. Final question, David.
Yeah.
Where do you think we'll be? What will be the sort of vibe, the sense of UK PLC, where we are on the global stage, where we are with confidence, and where we are in terms of whether or not I can go out and have a good old pint of an evening?
Unfortunately, I think we're going to be in a bit of a vacuum. I think because we are failing to stimulate people. I mean, people like Lakshmi Mittal are leaving this country after 36 years.
Yeah.
If that doesn't send you some kind of a message, God help you. We've lost 10,600 millionaires, supposedly, gone, Malta, Italy, wherever it is. That gives you another message. What we have, or what we don't have, is what I call people who are prepared to take risk. We need risk managers. And if you actually pop a pin in their balloon of hope, you're never going to get them to spend the money and they're not going to stay here. It's such an important part. People think, well, it's all very well, you're relatively comfortable, you can do what you like, the rest of it. But I'm afraid a fact of life is that's where the future and employment comes from, is people who've got a little bit of cash behind them, the ability to be able to stimulate interest, to buy businesses or create businesses that employ people. And that's what this country is all about. And I'm afraid we've hit, not the buffers, but we've gone into neutral.
We're in that direction. David, as ever, thank you. Great having you on with us. David Buik. He is, of course, financial advisor and markets commentator at Aquis Exchange. Thank you to him.